Well, thank you so much for joining us. I'm Mark Schumacher, and this is your weekly webinar. And this week, we have a subject that's actually stirred up a lot of interest. We're talking about your delivery teams, empowering them to make sure that they can really be a key element in your customer excellence and everything you're doing for the customer. And we're going to get into some of the hiring practices. A lot of the questions that you have, we're going to be getting to. We got a great panel today, so we're going to get to them momentarily. But first, a couple of reminders. I got to do some housekeeping here. Lower part of your screen, you're going to see a Q&A tab. If you have any questions, then just make sure that you pop it in there and we'll get to it as best we can, I promise. Also, myhfa.org/webinar. You go there, it's our entire library of all of our webinars. This one will join it after today. Any subject that is going to impact your business, I guarantee you there'll be at least one or more webinars there that'll be valuable. And I also want to thank, of course, our friends at Synchrony. They are the thought leader sponsors here at HFA when it comes to things like this, like our webinars. So let's get to it, because we got to talk about really safeguarding your brand and really enhancing everything that you do in your business by really focusing on the delivery process today. And with us, we have one familiar face here, Brian Lysett, CEO of Service Technologies, a lifecycle management solution provider, has been with us before. And Brian, it's great to have you back. You got some great insights in this area, so thank you for joining us. We also have AJ Hineker. He is here. He's Director of Field Capacity and Compliance with Fidelitone. They're a carrier recruitment, operational excellence, and execution firm when it comes to everything dealing with delivery, et cetera. So AJ, we thank you for being here. And also John Greenberg joins us. He's Senior VP of Operations for City Furniture. They're a top 100 retailer based down in South Florida. Super wonderful retailer, good friends HFA here. So John, thank you for joining us as well. We appreciate that very, very much. So I think it goes without saying, when we talk about this subject matter of the delivery teams and customer excellence, we all know, let's just get this out on the table. We all know that you can have the best sales process in the world. Everything can be A+, and you get to the final mile, final feet, and you can ruin everything by it being a very bad experience for the customer. So in really talking about that today, I want to ask this as a first question, then we're going to dig into a lot of the specifics. And I'll start out, John, I'm going to pick you. What would you say is the number one focus that retailers listening to this need to have in order to ensure that there aren't those mistakes at the end of it? There's a lot of things we're going to talk about, but what would you say? Give me the one or two that you think are the absolute must-dos at this point.
So here's where we're at now. Here's where we feel like we've taken a step forward. Once again, private fleet, the guys work for us. We can have conversations every day and all that. And we'll get into this more. But one, I need as much information on that day for our delivery teams to go and execute that delivery. And we're talking about accurate data. We hear this all the time. Your data. I mean, like, what's the house look like? Where is it? Is there a time frame? And here's more important. Have we been there before? And we'll get into this because not everything's a problem on the first delivery. Maybe something's out of stock. Maybe the customer's aware of that. If we've been there before, whether it be an inconvenience or not, we need to know that. We need to know exactly what happened last time so that we could be successful in the next. And the true goal we're running with right now, we know we're going to make mistakes. It's the second time. Can we clean it up and be done? And, people like to say, hey, they took care of me. So that's kind of our focus right now to be successful.
I love that. And, the other thing too, just to pause switch there for a second, first thing that comes to my head too, is that if you have that accurate information, and this is a second or third delivery to that location, and you can give that delivery team a little bit of context, that might even a little bit of reference to the last time they were there. I mean, that's huge. The customer feels like they've been heard, noticed, right? I mean, no, that's a brilliant piece. I want to get back to that in a minute, John. Thank you for that. AJ, let me ask you the same thing. That's really a great start, but what is the absolute one of the must-dos you think right now for anybody that's delivering to customers?
Understanding the product, right? Having information on, content on how a particular product is assembled, sharing that information. There's new product lines coming out all the time. And really to be able to arm our carriers and our delivery folks with the knowledge on how to properly install, properly assemble a particular piece of furniture, what the care instructions are, and just being able to educate our drive teams with that information. Again, making sure we're arming them with all the necessary information to be successful and provide exceptional service.
I've now two very different answers, yet one thread: data and data. We're going to get to that in a minute. That's fabulous because knowledge is king in this whole thing. Brian, jump in.
I'll tell you, data and data is exactly where I was going. Having the technology to be able to track that information and recycle that information obviously is a big key to getting those things done. Having the means of getting that installation assembly information to your drivers. You know, I like what City's doing by having the drivers in-house, seeing them every day, being able to talk to them on a regular basis. You know, that can also happen with contractors. But no, I like hearing things like that. But I think the technology portion of it is super important in making sure that the drivers have everything that they need data-wise. Okay, like they're both saying. I agree 1000%.
I kind of am trying to figure out the best way to tackle this because there's two things that I think we need to talk about it in more depth here, and that is the gathering of that information, the sharing of that information, but also I'm sitting here thinking about, man, you're also painting a picture of the need for some really purposeful hiring here, so that you have people that can take that and utilize it. Because John, what you said tells me that that's going to be somebody that's got to have a customer service thread in their world, because they got to be able to take that and utilize that and adapt that. And then AJ, what you're talking about is somebody that can sit there and really the product knowledge and be able to put things together. And Brian, you're talking about the technology, so you got to have somebody that is able to handle that. So I've just made the decision after saying that out loud. Let's go to hiring first, because I think that's one of the biggest hurdles we got to deal with. So John, we're talking about the need for somebody who's not just muscle, who's not just showing up and dropping something off. You want to man them with all this kind of data. So tell me what you think right now are the best practices that you have utilized in order to make sure that you've got quality team members, whether it's the driver or the helper on those trucks.
All right. So, you know, when you guys know, finding the right people, there is no right person. And you know, what do we want to, you know, when I started to make for is, hey, I got to get him in the door and we have to pay well. And we'll get into that structure later and stuff. But it's not everyone wakes up and wants to go do this hard work anymore. We can just go make coffee for $18 an hour and be pretty successful nowadays. So we need to get in here. We're going to go through an interview process. You're going to go through a thing. You're going to get an on-site face-to-face interview with like the hiring manager of one of our departments so that they see you. They're going to come in at 6 in the morning and see the loadout process and go, is this what I want to do? Oh, wow. Hey, my buddy works here. He makes a lot of money, all that good stuff. Then it's just kind of like, all right, we're going to teach you the basics. But by week 2, you are under the healthy care of another team of guys going out and doing deliveries, and you're just sitting there watching them. And you come back week 3, you're assigned to, we use a term, a team lead, and he's going to train you for 2 weeks. And at that point, we make a decision. This is either going to work or it's not, and hopefully you've bought into it. But what I want to get to just real quick, Mark, and cut me off if you want. It's not that I need him. So I got to get them to want to do this, see the benefits, you know, get out there, whatever.
100%.
All the data and all the prep, what we've inserted is something that AJ and all the carriers out there have been doing for years. Is we've taken our supervisor, our guy in charge of, you know, 15, 20 guys. He's the missing link. It's his job to make sure all that information is passed truck to truck, driver to driver every day. And now it's his job to go out after the trucks depart and audit a certain amount of audits each week that he has to kind of bring back and say, this is what I did. It's his job to provide that coaching. And you can say, hey, that's great in theory. How do you know he's doing it? Well, he's got to prove that he's doing it. So we're going to give him a tool to use so we can see that the audits are happening, and we got to incentivize him to want to. So if he's incentivized the same way the drivers are, based on, like, we use returns, you know, and keep that. He's getting paid. He's getting paid if his guys are executing correctly. And you put the qualifiers of first time completion, a safety qualifier, you know, no accidents, something like that. And then as custom, we'll get into, like, you know, delivery satisfaction, if you will. If they're in those realms, he's making good money weekly because his team's executing. He wants to go out and work with the guys. He wants to have his phone on and answer the calls when there's a problem at the house. He's helping get that data there. I can't just assume that every one of our drivers is going to be this masterful guy who can understand. No, that we know that's not the case. We put it on that supervisor.
Okay. So man, which is a support role when you really think
Yes.
about it in a lot of ways. One thing before I go on to one of the other guys, because you threw out a ton of gems right there. Did I hear you correctly? Are you basically saying that after that, essentially, I think it was about a 4-week period? Is that, I mean, are you literally utilizing this as a probationary period with the, we're going to tell you about, you like the environment, we're going to put you on a truck to watch, then we're going to see you. I mean, is that how are you doing that as part of the hiring process? Do they understand that it's somewhat dependent upon how it goes?
The goal is 0 turnover. Everybody's happy. We love it, right?
Of course.
There is that final evaluation by the it's one of the ranks in our team. It's a team lead. He's a training team lead. He's out there doing deliveries with this guy.
Okay.
He's got final say. Believe it or not, it's after week 4 or any time between week 3 and 4 where he can come back and just be like, this isn't going to work.
Okay.
Great
No,
guy.
I think
Let's get him to another department. Let's do whatever. And that's what we rely on, that versus just kind of like, giving him a partner and, and then the guy doesn't show up to work.
Gotcha.
We're trying to get better there. And you know how it goes. It's, if you get 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks, their body gets used to the day, they see some good paychecks, and then you get them, and it's just a matter of, can we get them booked? And that's
100%. AJ, jump in here because John threw out a couple of real, I mean, this is really, this is a definable system that they have there, but I love the fact that he's also putting so much on the supervisor piece of it, which has got a lot of great subject. Give us a little bit of an idea, some reaction to this and some of your thoughts too on this hiring piece.
No, it's great. Everything John said it's really in line, and obviously Fidelitone, it's a little bit different model. We're using independent carriers. They're using their drivers and helpers, but there's a lot of transferable information there. We treat the process very similarly. So bringing in independent carrier, we have a group of what we call field capacity specialists that are strategically placed throughout the United States. They're recruiters is what they are.
Okay.
And so, as just like John mentioned, that the supervisor kind of owns that delivery team's progression, if you will, and assimilation to the organization. That field capacity specialist owns that process too, throughout the contracting piece. Then that individual, that carrier, that drive team is passed on to the leadership in the hub, but they never really leave. The field capacity specialist never really leaves that carrier, leaves that drive team. He is consistently monitoring their performance, having weekly, it's 1 week, 3 weeks, 30 days. They're having check-ins with that carrier, everything going well. It really builds a brand with them too. They're independent carriers, but it creates some of that brand loyalty with Fidelitone. But it also gives us an opportunity to have those accountability conversations with the field capacity specialist as well as the supervisor, and continue to set those expectations. But everything John said was spot on, and it is transferable from employee driver to independent carrier model.
And what I think I'm hearing you say between the lines there is that you need to be asking for this. I mean, what John's talking about, that best practice that they use at City there, which I think sounds absolutely outstanding, is something that you, even if you're dealing with an independent carrier or a company like yours that's going to be the go-between, you can certainly ask and insist upon this type of a setup. Brian, jump in here. We're already hitting some heavy meat on the bone here. Holy smokes.
No, I love it. I love what I'm hearing. I mean, to be honest, coming up through a service company, I love delivery guys because they kept me busy. It sounds like I'm not going to be doing as much work with these guys.
Fixing problems. Yeah, I got you. Okay.
But what I'm hearing from both of them is really investing the time and energy, the proper training. Everything always defaults in my mind back to the proper training. Through training, you're going to end up filtering out the good and bad. And it's kind of what you're doing and putting them with the direct supervisor, the lead. I love it. I think that's great. I think that's wonderful. And I think you're both doing great with that. But I really feel that it's about training, and it's seeing how that employee is going to take ownership, right, of their position and really want to do this job, because they both have expressed, I mean, it's not the easiest job in the world, especially City Furniture. I mean, they're in Miami. It's 95 degrees, and then all of a sudden,
bit humid,
30 minutes. Yeah. It's not the easiest job in the world. And, you know, you got to be in better shape than me to do that job. So at the end of the day, I hear them both defaulting back to training, you know, and really investing into that employee or
Well,
that.
and also there's a lot of modeling going on here too. I mean,
Yes.
John, you didn't say the word, but you guys, this is clearly tied to culture, right? Because if you're putting that person with a team right away to watch them, you're putting the confidence in that team's doing it right. And then you got this supervisor. So this is, I think for people hearing this, they need to understand there's this cultural piece. Before we get off the hiring thing though, let me just ask you this though. I know it's tough. You're looking for somebody that you know that will come in and see the environment and be okay. Are there attributes that you can really seek out though that you need to have? Because there's also this huge customer experience piece of this process. So I'll keep in the same order for the moment. But John, give me an idea about that though. How are you putting things out there when you're seeking these the people fill these jobs that helps the application pool be better for what you're looking for?
The one thing this is kind of answers this is like, we'll take in-house referrals. I'll take them blindfolded. If a guy brings in a friend or a brother or someone he knows, and the guy knows, you know, John's out on the road 50 hours, 60 hours a week. He knows that culture, you know, what that works like, and he comes in, we're always very successful. What we need is just someone who can honestly like smile and have a conversation. And what we hope to see is we see that in that last piece of I'll call it the recruiting and interview process, where our on-site manager who's running meets him, has a quick conversation with him, walks him around. I mean, that's really it. Like, yeah, we do some assessments and things like that are going to try to help us pick, is this a personality that does well in stressful environments in front of other people? But the truth is, it's a conversation, and then it's like, can he develop the patience of being out there in those first 4, 5, 6 weeks of doing this, working? But I mean, that's it. I mean, I wish I had a better answer there, but it's really just like the qualifications are like, you know, obviously you got to be fit for it. You got to want to do it. Can you communicate well? And we believe that if you can communicate well and look and smile, let's be honest, like you got to smile from time to time. We can teach you the rest. And, you know, we kind of go from there.
Yep.
AJ, go for it.
Yeah, I mean, I would just ask that, you know, John stop stealing my answers. Thanks, John. No,
we'll go to you first next time.
We'll change the order. Yeah.
I appreciate it. No, I'm just kidding. No, I mean, John you hit it right on the head. And it's the same in employee model, whether it's employee or independent carrier. It's having that dialogue with the individual on the dock, and it's the age-old eye contact, right? Are they having that connection with you? Just having basic dialogue, right? I think the old way of recruiting carriers was, here's what you're going to get paid, here's what you're going to deliver, right? We've gone away from that because we want to create delivery, a delivery and experience and experts, right? Not just delivery folks. So having the dialogue during, you know, walking the dock, showing them loadout, showing them what a true day in the life of, you know, especially at loadout, it's critical. It's vital for us to bring them in during loadout to see a little bit of the chaos, right? And it's organized chaos, and we want them to see that. And then we want to have that interaction, you know, to John's point is, are you making eye contact? Is there a connection here? Are you vocal? Are you having those conversations? If you're not doing that during that process, then we can't really be confident that we're giving our customers that exceptional experience.
You can't picture that person being in the house delivering. Yeah, I got it.
Brian,
in responding to that, I want to ask you something a little bit different related to that. So before we talk about some of the other skill sets they need to have, et cetera, like this, is that, okay, so we got this, we understand the importance of this initial training, et cetera, like this. What does ongoing look like? Do you think is a best practice as far as ensuring that there's quality control when it comes to your delivery teams? What would you suggest are things that people should have in place that are watching this webinar today?
You know, training should never end. Everyone can always improve from the top down, obviously. I think that you have to have a true regimen in place when it comes to training. And that means really like sticking to it. And a lot of companies don't, you know, we're all guilty of it. You know, it's so much more beneficial, not only for your company and you, but for your end customer and your partner, right? Everyone's happy at that point. Like like it's been said already, you can't really teach personality, right? So that's the hardest part here is that I'm hearing from both of them as well. You know, they keep going back to the smiling, the having a conversation. You know, if you can do that, I mean, obviously the rest can be trained to you. And you just got to have a continual follow-up with your employees and a good rapport. You have to have those relationships. And from what I'm hearing from both of them, I really like it that they're in touch and in tune daily with them. And that even takes it a step further.
100%. And AJ, to something you said too, I would imagine the ongoing training is also ensuring the fact that you're keeping them up to date on new products they're going to be delivering as well. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because that's got to be something that's not just once a quarter, once every 6 months. I mean, that can change on a weekly basis, right?
Yeah, in some cases daily, right? In a lot of cases daily. And I think, you know, we go back to what we started with, which is data, right? Our customers, through a survey program, our customers are telling us what our delivery teams are doing well, what they're not doing well. And we've got to take that data and understand how to train them, right? Because training has to evolve too. It's not, and certainly the way I would train you or John is very different that I may train somebody else over here. But understanding what our customers really want, or what we call here at Fideliton the voice of the customer analysis, right? Understanding what the customers, what they're saying through the survey process and understanding what that looks like. And then it's that open and that transparent dialogue with our clients to understand, you know, whether it's through calls or meetings on site, to understand what the new product lines are looking like. You know, what's the spring product line looking like? Hey, there's some new patio furniture coming out, and asking our clients for that information and saying, do you have any dialogue on this, or do you have any content on this, whether it be video, whether it be SOPs, whether it be manuals, and then rolling that out to the field. Because the key to this is when you lead and manage multiple hubs, it has to be standardized across all the hubs, because regardless of where the drive teams are, they have to understand the same way.
Gotcha. And John, let me ask you, based upon what AJ just said there, do you also think about things like the packaging? Because if it's one thing if something comes in new and they need to know what unpacking is and everything on that end of things. I imagine there's also some challenges when it comes to certain ways that products come in and how they are presented, et cetera. Is that something that you want to make sure the teams are aware of too? Things that might be a little bit different from a size or weight standpoint or things of that sort. Do you want to make sure that you're always kind of their advocate when it comes to even the loadout process?
Yeah, and I just want to, one thing AJ mentioned at the end there was standardization across all DCs, and like that is key. Yeah, I just want everyone to know, like, with everything you do, I mean, that is where it starts. But anyway,
AJ got the first word on that.
I got it.
We threw him a bone on that one. So thank you, John. Okay, good.
So a couple things here, Mark. You know, we you know, the benefit is like I'm only dealing with kind of like one merchandising team, not thousands that like AJ be dealing with all these other.
Sure.
So the idea is like, if anything's coming that we feel is going to be different, okay, it's sampled, it's done, someone on our management team is seeing when it comes in. Now we're a traditional open and inspect. We all know what the term deluxe means, right? So we're doing that. We only offer two things. It's like you're getting it white glove, if you will, or you're going to get it in the box. It's like a free shipping thing. So it's got to survive through our process and to our truck. I may go off kilter here, but like there are some items that like we have trouble deluxing because when you take it out of the manufacturer packaging, it becomes dangerous to handle. You know, we got to get it through the door. We got to get it 100%. Upstairs. 100%. And those are going back to the question of like, how do you flag? How do you, constant training? That's the stuff you need the feedback on, where it's like, down here, everyone loves the white lacquer. White lacquer is great. White lacquer gets dirt. So it's maybe there's some things we don't want to take out of the bag on the nice big white sectional sofa and get our handprints all over it and stuff like that. So can we build that type of, data into our system? So it's like, don't inspect this piece. You know what I mean? We know that we're going to be 90% complete if we don't, open this up. And we need that feedback from our teams. They have to give us that feedback. We have to execute it and show them that, that it works, and incentivize them for giving us that feedback. The other thing, and I think AJ was hitting on it, getting videos from vendors and stuff and using YouTube and making it accessible on the phones that we give them,
And-
having
and
little
you-
QR codes. But look it up. You got the City Furniture channel, and there's the weird looking bed that I couldn't even start to build, that these guys can watch the video in your home and build it. And
100%. And this is, and I think what you're saying here too is this is not something that is just exclusive to larger retailers. I mean, this is true for anybody, even if you're loading your own stuff out or you got a small team at your single store. I mean, this is important information, not only in making sure it gets delivered well, but also I'm thinking worker safety here too, man. I mean, you want to make sure they understand if there's going to be something that's going to be a unique and unusual lift as far as that goes. Brian, a word that John just said that I want to take this off on, and I'll let you start this around the circle here. Square circle, actually. Sorry about that. So with all these things we're talking about here, what are the key ways that you guys are that you're seeing drivers being incentivized, and what should be key elements to that? And I'm thinking again about this is for any size retailer. If you got somebody that's delivering you, how do you right now, to be successful, should you be incentivizing these drivers and helpers?
I'll tell you, I like what I heard so far when it came to that. For completion rate, I think another one really that probably would help is attendance, obviously. Making sure that they come to work, and giving them a good reason to be coming to work, right? And you're going to get a bonus if you actually just come do your job, right? Unfortunately, that's the world we're in today, right? We have to pay $18 an hour for someone to work in a coffee shop, like you said. So,
Yeah.
money, unfortunately, is the key. If you're incentivizing these guys to take part in continuous training and do their job and be on time and come into work, obviously, you're going to win. But again, and it's kind of a statement, but a question. How much training is really being done on assembly? Do you guys do any training as a group with your drivers and their helpers on how to put this new piece together? How to disassemble this. Like I'm here today at one of my partners, Lazy Boy, and they have this new sectional or sofa called a Duo, and it's a monster, right? So we've had to do additional training on it because it's a little different than the traditional pieces that we would see every day. So that to me would be another way to, keep the success tone up, if you should.
AG, what are your thoughts about that? And I mean, it's a great question that Brian asked.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure, absolutely. No, and you bring up a great point, Brian. And yes, the answer is yes. Obviously, in order to teach and continue to train our drive teams, our leaders in the hub have to understand how to do it too, right? And so, as new product comes in, we'll leverage that during stand-ups to assemble it there, or whether it's our deluxing team or incentivizing one of our drive teams who has delivered it before to kind of give a best practices and walk the rest of the group through that. So it's very important to do that in a controlled environment and say, hey, here is something that we ran across a couple times that we've assembled this, but do that in a controlled environment, not in front of the customer. Now we're educating, and we use our peer voices to help train that. And if I could too, on the incentivizing our drive teams, I think one of the key elements for all of us is to keep it fresh, right? It's easy to say, if you get a 5-star survey, we're going to give you X amount of dollars, or you're going to win this award, or what have you. But I really think to drive, again, going back to the voice of the customer and understanding what our customers really want out of their delivery experience, is challenge the drive teams to get a certain word mentioned in a survey, right? We're going to drive the word spectacular service during this week. Let's have a little bit of a competition, kind of make it a friendly competition amongst the drive teams too, and whoever gets the most spectaculars mentioned in a survey, or your name and your partner's name, here's the incentive, and make it a little bit competitive as well. So it's there's a lot of creative things that you can do with incentivizing, especially when it comes to the carriers.
John, talk with us about your concepts of incentivization.
So two things. First of all, understand that like our delivery teams, they're doing it all. They're doing the inspection, they're loading their own trucks, they're doing the deliveries, they're paid on commission. So like right then and there, I have this big baked in, like, all right, I got to get this piece delivered because that's how I get paid. So they're paid by the piece. If it comes back, they don't get paid for whatever reason. And then if it comes back within 14 days, for whatever reason, we're gonna pull it back. It sounds harsh, but it's not. They do just fine. So there you have that ownership piece there. But what AJ's hitting on is like, how do you get him to go above and beyond? So you've got the ownership of the product, you've got the supervisor who's incentivized to make them do well. So he's out there doing it all, but still, how do you show, the right appreciation? So we do it a couple different ways. We look at delivery sat ratings. I love the fact you're just calling out like certain names to look for. I haven't even considered that, but like we'll do things like, all right, the top X guys in each DC. I mean, hopefully I'm not breaking any OSHA rules here. We reel out like a basketball hoop once a month or a little soccer net. And it's like, you're shooting for money, and those guys get out there in front of everyone to do it. It's just, it gets, and this is all in the DC, the customers don't see any of this. So it just kind of gets that like, hey, John was the best delivery sat thing. It's something I've reflected on over the last couple of years is like, we try to set all this stuff up and pay these bonuses and you try to post it, but you don't know if the guys know and the team knows, and you don't know if their peers really know. And we've done historically a terrible job at like letting everybody know this was that weekly winner or weekly high performer. So we're trying to get creative to like show, no. These are the 4 top guys for the week. And it builds, it's helpful.
Yep.
And there's no wrong way to do it, but you just got to do it, I guess.
No, you guys are building great cultures.
No, and I would just add to John's too, if you don't mind. I love that idea. I know there are some of our leaders in the organization that will do WWE championship belts or allow if you win the survey competition and you get to pick your routes for that week. You actually get to handpick which routes you want to be on. And there is a way, the employees, with the employee drivers, certainly they're employees. With the independent carriers, it's a little bit different dynamic, but you can still create a culture with business partners, right? And that's really what we all need to do. And I think that's great, John. I'll steal a few of those ideas too. I like the basketball hoop, man. I'm not going to tell.
This is all about sharing. This is about sharing ideas. No, listen, that's what this is all about. So when I'm hearing about training, just to put a bow around this sort of thing. So the onboarding piece is making sure they understand the environment they're looking at. I loved what John said earlier about, okay, here's the doc, here's how this is all going to work. You want to make sure that they are up to speed on product handling and product assembly and things of that sort. And you also want to make sure that they understand, in some cases, the issue about bringing, take backs, how it's going to go in, how it's going to come out. The two things we've not really touched on there, though, however, is can we just talk and I'll throw this out to the three of you, whoever wants to jump in on this. Is there a standard for incentives or bonuses when it comes to the dollar amount that was asked? Is there anything to that, or you just got to kind of figure that out on your own?
I mean, I can tell you exactly what we do real quick. So returns, we set a goal. So an individual delivery technician, it's tiered down. It starts at 6%, and everywhere I go down, that's 20, 40, 60, 80, 100. That's weekly. 20, 40, yeah, that's weekly. That turns into monthly, okay? And it doubles. For that supervisor, all right, this is where he's in the money, all right? What we want is that supervisor's salary. We want an extra, he should be able to make an extra 5 or 10 grand a year just on his weekly incentives if his team is hitting an all-in returns goal. Everything else we do monthly is typically around $100 or some type of gift card. So we do that with the delivery sat and then the first time completion on a monthly basis. The returns is weekly. I'd love to spend more money and do more weekly stuff. We'll get there, okay? But I think weekly is great, even though it doesn't have to be so much. It's impactful. It happens. One bad week doesn't ruin your month. That's all I got on that.
No doubt.
Yeah, for us, for us, it's really, up to the leader of the building, right? They can change that. I mean, there's, obviously budgeted amount for incentives and those types of things for the drive teams, but really they have the autonomy to get creative, right? And again, what are we trying to drive? It all goes back to, I'll say it too much, the voice of the customer. What is our client telling us is most important at that time? Then that leader will take that and drive that particular metric. Or if we're seeing some comments from our customers about, on time or those types of things to drive that metric, to drive that compliance, they may implement, a different strategy to try to push that. So it's really up to the leader.
Brian, let me ask you, one of the things that we've not talked about in the training standpoint is the soft skills. We want somebody with a smile on their face, somebody that, that comes across well. But can you talk a little bit about training from that standpoint? Because that's never been more important than it has been in the last few years as far as that interaction with the customer. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, I like the emphasis that they both put on the leaders, and those are the ones that can actually sit there and show, not just tell. So they're going to take them by the hand and show them how it's done. Okay. A person can be the best delivery person on earth, but if he has a bad personality, doesn't have those soft skills, it's just not going to work out, right? If you can break them and you have them with that leader, and I love the emphasis they put on the supervisors and bonusing the supervisors and making them get their hands dirty and dig in with these guys. I really feel like that's how you're going to do it, if it's going to work.
But you're saying that the supervisors, it's not just a question of the logistical piece of everything and process. You're saying that's also making sure that they're auditing them, if you will, on how they're coming across to the customer. Is that what I'm hearing you say, Brian?
Absolutely. They should definitely, it's not just tell, but it's show, right? So they're, like I heard both of them say, the leaders are on the road with them. They're doing it side by side with them, and they're showing them how they talk to the customer, how they sell an item, how they keep it in the home. Because that's the goal, is to keep the furniture in the home, right? So we do the same thing with technicians. So it's the same exact practice. The goal is to keep it in the home. And how do you do that? Those soft skills are more important than people give it credit for. I really feel that way. I think that the way you handle and talk to a customer is better than the way you place a dresser in the room. It really is to me, because that's how that customer is going to come back again. Okay. And buy some more furniture and get another delivery.
Okay. Fair enough. And John or AJ, I'll let you guys, one of you, jump in on this one, because it kind of takes that a step further. How much autonomy do you give your drive team to make a decision or something, an adjustment there at the delivery site, at the customer's home? Do they have the ability to make some small decisions on the fly that would help really make certain that delivery is going to be successful?
Here's what we don't like. We don't like changing routes. We don't like, because, hey, the money's on stop 3 and that customer called me. So it's why, like, I just got to check it in with my supervisor, right? He's aware. So things like this. All right. Hey, we're City Furniture. You get your paperwork. The room has to be cleared. Everything has to be perfect. This guy's got a $5,000 Tempur-Pedic in the truck, and there's something in the way. He's probably going to move it out of the way. If it's a big sectional, trust me, doors are coming off. It's like, because we'll get this through our audits. Supervisor's going to be, all right, like, I didn't stop this from happening because the guy already kind of said he was going to do it. So really, it's like, what is that gray area? Truthfully, we don't want to touch anything in the house. We want everything to be perfect. But the reality is the customers are humans too, and I can't move, things out of the way, right? It's not always going to be perfect. So as long as they're willing to do it, they've got that ability. Safety is the biggest thing. We're not standing on top of trucks to get over balconies. We're not hanging things on straps.
Right.
If the elevator breaks and it's on the 10th floor, it's like, yeah, we're not doing, we need to be realistic there. But truthfully, it's just, do they have the support? And that's what I'm driving through our management team. And when it got to the audits, and Brian was just talking about that, everyone says, oh yeah, they have to. Our supervisors have to. And I don't want to, they got to show that they did it. We use an app where they do their audits. They're taking pictures as they go in. They're taking pictures of the product like our guys do with the routing software and stuff. I know they're there. They're having their conversations with the customer, and then they're giving feedback, and then they have to give that feedback to their drivers. So it's like, as long as you build a support system that if the driver doesn't know what to do, someone he knows he can call. We're never going to solve all the problems. It kind of like they've got that support from Big Brother, and then like, all right, I'll go ahead and do this, or I'll wait around.
So
an extra 30 minutes.
you feel confident that they know where that you've, through the training and supervision, that they know where the line's drawn. In other words, right?
There's standard work. There's that word again, on that line.
Gotcha.
But if there needs to be a quick decision made, I don't want them to have to worry about this is solely on me. I've got a support system to say, go do it. And by the way, if it messes up, I got you. That's the key.
AJ?
Yeah. Our drive teams definitely have the autonomy, as long as, to John's point, they're protecting themselves from a safety perspective. They're protecting the customer's home and property. And as long as they're not doing anything to put the product, the customer, home, or themselves at risk, they have that autonomy. And I really liked what John said. I think he said safety net. They have that safety net. We've got checks in place where, centralized dispatching, where they're calling a dispatcher specifically. They know they have a connection with that dispatcher. They know them. They've talked to them every day because that dispatcher's assigned to a certain region. So if there's ever any doubt, they get to call their phone a friend, so to speak, and ask the questions. How should I handle this situation? And so they're comfortable making those decisions as long as it's safety and the protection of the home and product is first and foremost.
And Brian's going to say, as long as you train them. I mean, there's training needs to come in here, but you also don't want robots, right? I mean, you want somebody that can recognize that, because that's also, to me, when I think about customer service, that's one of those things that I think is a key element of it, is can they connect that way, and they're not just robotically coming in and just dropping stuff, and they're kind of paying attention. But I want to get to a bunch of shorter questions here for the next little stint here, but I have to ask this one because it's a question that I came up with. Because I sense there might be some serious danger here, or maybe not. Any thoughts about the drive delivery teams interacting with the sales team in any part of this process, or do you keep them kind of partitioned because it's one specialty and another? You know what I'm saying? Because you've got a sales team back here that's wanting to make sure that everything gets done properly at the end. Whoever wants to jump in on that, go for it.
Oh, we want full interaction. So our drive teams are the sales folks that we deal with from our clients. Our drive teams, we will take, we will go out to store sets with our drive teams. They create that connection. And oftentimes what happens is the store will actually request from our hubs, I want this drive team back because they did such a tremendous job. We want that connection. So both our internal customers, our sales folks, our account management, they create that connection with our drive teams when they go into our hubs and travel. And then likewise with our client, making that connection. We want that emotional connection to be made from the point of sale folks to the folks delivering that last mile. It's important.
Go ahead, John. I see you. I saw you leaning.
Yeah, it's a good one. The biggest thing is, like, a lot of that in the beginning, we talked about certain information and things like that. And a lot of that we're getting from our sales team at point of sale. And really, it's like, when all that's done right, our guys are happy, the invoice is right, the address is right, the little notes are on here and things like that. And we're good to go. There really isn't, we do it through meetings. We do it, quarterly. We make sure that, like, certain team leaders and sales teams are interacting. The sales associates are always allowed to request guys. It's very hard to do, but you'll get that, and you're like, hey, there's good stuff there. But truthfully, we rely on our customer care team, right, to really be that bond. So when we're completing every delivery, regardless of what it is, we're calling our customer care team, and they're talking to the customer. It's kind of a standard we do. And it's just cleaner for us that way. So we don't have a lot of, like, at the home, we're not calling the sales associate, but it happens, if something's written wrong, if something, drivers will be like, hey, call your sales associate, we'll work this out. Not a huge focus. The focus is, like, we let our customer care team kind of be in the middle, if you will.
Gotcha. I got you. Well, you both understand why I asked that question. Brian, go ahead. I know that you were wanting to jump in there too.
Well, yeah, I've never been a fan of, sales getting involved in delivery or service. I like, what John's saying. If they're gonna get the information correct from the beginning, obviously they have to have the faith and the trust in the system, and they can communicate with specific people. I would want to see the sales team communicating directly with the drivers. I just think that, you have to have faith in the system. Both of these guys, they're well-rounded. They run great ships. The captains of great ships. The salespeople shouldn't have to get involved. But on the flip side, that's the first person the customer is going to call. Delivery goes wrong, I'm calling.
This is true.
So the sales guy, by default, ends up in there anyway. You know what I mean? And he doesn't want to deal with that. He doesn't.
Right.
We all know that. He doesn't want to get that call. But unfortunately, that's the customer. That's the man that took the money. and I'm calling him, and I have a problem. I want him to fix it. The salesperson most likely will defer to customer care, okay, if they're smart. If they really start digging in, and we've all seen this, we've been in the business 20 plus years, it could get worse. So I feel like it's better to have that medium, that median connection, customer care, great way to put it. They can call delivery responds to customer care, gets back to sales,
Yeah,
or
it's a buffer.
gives it to customer care and let customer care handle it.
Yeah, it's a buffer, Brian. You make a great point, because I also think that I can hear so many of our good friends in this industry that own these companies, all these lead retailers are going to sit there and saying, I want my sales team focused on the next sale, not on this one. So there's also a part of it that says kind of partitioning this a little bit, but what you guys also said is critically important. But that information, like AJ and John said, has to flow from there so that the delivery team has the context and knows what's going on.
Starting
All right,
with address, but to add one more thing, AJ,
Sure.
I really like the fact that the store is requesting that delivery team, but that can happen organically just by the delivery team doing their job and making a customer happy. You know what I mean? So I like to hear that too, AJ. That's
Well, and guys, isn't it true that there's also some real great little juice in there from the standpoint of realizing that if your delivery teams know that there's certain delivery folks that the salespeople want to have on it, doesn't mean, like John said, you're going to get that because you got to schedule this whole thing like this. But that's a competitive piece that's not bad on the back end either. You're getting these whole things where you guys are being, man, these guys are killing it, and they're being asked to make deliveries by the sales team. Yeah, there's ways I think you guys would be able to work with that. Let's ask this one. There's a couple of great questions here. How about and I'll throw this out to whoever wants to jump on it here. Strategies for mitigating damage. Dun 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 dun. That's a big one.
Damage, huh? Ooh,
Yeah.
that happens to you guys.
You
You
heard
got
that,
it, John? Is that
that-
you? You're not damaging, right? Nobody
that's
damages.
my favorite word.
Yeah. No, for us, it's again, it goes back to the voice of the customer and collecting that data and understanding what those challenges are. And then ride behinds are a key for us. John's talked about it a lot, about having that supervisor out in the field, and whether it's one of our field capacity specialists or the in-hub leader, getting out and having that shoulder to shoulder interaction with the drive team and watching them handle the furniture. We talked about soft skills. That's, closing the sale, closing the deal on that, but watching them and providing instant feedback for that drive team and saying, hey, before you go in here, blanket across the threshold, but these are certain things that we want to make sure we protect. It's setting those expectations and then validating that they are being followed through the ride behinds and spending shoulder to shoulder time with the drive teams.
Yeah, and that's exactly. And with damage is our number one problem, our number one reason that things come back. We screw up all the time. Okay. You take it, every piece that comes back, in our, whether it's day of delivery rejection or whether it's an exchange out for something because of a reason, that damage reason code's number one, right? So we're not solving it in one day, but the philosophy I do, it's like, that's my annual problem to solve. So we know it happens in all different places. So you're just continually going after it. We open and inspect and deluxe and all that stuff, and then we damage it in the truck, right? All right. So what is the right blanket? We switched blankets 3 years ago because we realized one was ripping too much. It's little things like that that can, save that one piece, save the next. The training's a big deal. When product comes in differently, it's a big deal. Just educating your team. And then honestly, for the ones that are tough, we talked about it before, is being able to identify the ones where it's like, we're better off not opening things like that to get it in, and you're just constantly chipping away at it to prevent. There's no one fix all kind of deal. Trust me, I've looked for it for 20 years. It's just, you can't let up. And that's my advice there.
Fair. Brian?
I think, obviously, I think that by empowering the delivery teams a little more, you both can probably tell me how many a week you bring back that might be a minor nick, a minor scratch. Why not empower delivery to have a service call set up? to have a technician go do a touch up and kind of sell it to the customer in a way like, hey, you know what? That's just a minor little scratch. I could have somebody touch that up. You know, that can happen even on the next piece we bring. That's the reality, right? You know, your doorway is what it is to get it in here. You know, I had a bedroom set delivered in South Florida years ago. I had 4 dressers brought to my house. It was just like, it just was too heavy, too big, had to go upstairs. It is what it is. You know, at a certain point, you know where you live, you know what you got to get through. And if you can sell it to the customer, instead of calling in and taking that piece back on the truck, you can just call in and set up a service call. Or if you have the technology, you can do it right from your app. You know, you could set up a service call. So it just depends on that particular driver. And it goes back to the soft skills, goes back to the training. And it also goes back to empowering them to be able to do that, you know, and it's not really in every delivery company or any retailer's policy to empower them that much. You know, it depends on how much seasoning does that driver have, right?
Yeah.
How good are they? Are they going to be able to keep it in the home? You know, and that's my thoughts about it.
Yeah, I would just add too, Brian, you're 100% right. You nailed it. And we actually have on-site techs, you know, most of our larger hubs, furniture medics is what we call them. And what we do, it goes back to training, right? We keep going back to training. What those it's every day. And those medics will actually teach, you know, minor repairs to the drive teams, right? And teach them how to use a pencil or use a marker, a touch-up marker, those types of things. So they can get skilled enough to take care of the customer, keep that product in the home, not bring it back. And really, you said it, right? Empowering your delivery teams as well as your in-hub medics or, you know, leaders who know how to do that, to teach that, share that information. Let's continue to take care of the customer, make sure that furniture stays where it was intended to stay, right? And the customer.
To me,
can I make one suggestion though?
sure.
If you
Yes, sir.
with markers, make sure they do it in the truck. Don't let the customer see that.
100%.
Like my tech, that's a big complaint. You know,
Absolutely.
it's like, oh, a marker, even though it's the proper product and that's what needs to be used. And it's not like a magic marker, it's a marker, right?
Now but you guys really you guys said something that I think is really gold there. And that is doing everything to keep the item in the home, because there's no greater expense that you as a retailer are going to go through than taking something back out and bringing it. I mean, I'm seeing you all nod here. That's why you want to avoid the damage piece, because, you know, you start bringing these products back and you're talking about you just hear the cha-ching of cost and everything going out the door. Good stuff.
Plus the impact on the customer too, Mark, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's
that's another day they have to take off.
It's exactly right.
Well, you know, let me, and this is something that I heard, and I know this comment came right when we were in that huge burst of pent-up demand after, you know, the doors opened back up after COVID. And I remember somebody saying this, and I know this is like really soft skill stuff, but there was a retailer that said they had basically said the one thing that they asked of their delivery teams on the soft skill side that helps in this process too about the damage is they said, celebrate the delivery. And I loved that, because the point was this is like, and I think this is the reason I thought about this right now, Brian, is because you're talking about trying to keep the item in the house. If that delivery begins with, man, we are so excited, you know, you've been waiting for this. You know, this is exciting to bring this to you, to get this, you know, put this in the room. You know, you've been picturing this for this whole time. And that's what they meant by celebrating the delivery. It's just like making it feel like this is we're not just dropping it off, but we know we're giving you something you've been waiting for, you're excited about. And that can also be a way that it keeps it in the house, because they also are excited about the fact that it's there and they'll be willing to have a team come out and fix a little nick. But is that just, did I just go way too soft on everything here? But do you like that concept about the kind of the celebrate the delivery?
Mark, it's this is what we tell our guys to say. Wow, that looks great. You just spent a couple $1,000. You want someone who brought it in who looks amazing in here. And get out. And it's so easy to do. You just have to be able to do it. And people want to feel good at the money they just spent. And you have an opportunity to help insure it right then and there on the spot.
And it makes them feel like they're not just another piece that's on the truck, right? I mean, that's the other part of it too, right?
I'll tell you,
absolutely. Absolutely.
here,
It's, oh, sorry,
service
Brian, go
side,
ahead.
I can go to the home and work on a sofa, go to the next home and it's the same sofa. The customer's like, "Oh, you see these a lot, huh?" I'm like, "I hardly see these." It's all about,
Exactly. No,
Yeah.
this is
I'm like,
unique.
this one never has a problem. It's just soft skills training, like we've been saying. And
Yeah, yeah.
honestly, it's a simple statement that puts a customer at ease. And at that point, you got your hooks in and you're good.
There you go. Yeah, celebrate the delivery. I think I just love that. I love that line. I think that encapsulates a bunch of stuff. But we're getting close to the end here, but I wanted to ask this because this came up in a major conference we had. Can you guys talk about, we talked about, what you're looking for when you hire and all that kind of good stuff. What about background checks or enhanced background checks? How critical is that? Because you want to make sure of obviously the pedigree of the person getting on your truck as a driver or helper. John, talk a little bit about that. Is that a key element here, something that you just can't gloss over?
You can't gloss over, you got to do it. Personally, I'll call myself out. We probably don't do enough. And one speaker, one of our delivery conferences I heard of is like, hey, you're going to hear about, you're going to do your background check. It's going to come back clean, but it doesn't show you how many times he wasn't convicted. It doesn't say how many times he was arrested. It says, so that sits on you and you're like, oh man. But our model is typically 2 guys in the truck. Our model is I got eyes on the process. Our model is like, can we feel this out? Listen, it's important. You never want to be, I just know where we don't want to be. And we don't want to be in a situation where, something happens and then, hey, what do you know? It has to happen. So no questions asked. We're doing the checks. I think you do it. I think obviously there's a cost. There's so much you're going to spend on these checks. There's timeliness to it. It could prevent hiring from happening because of waiting on information. Find one that works for your company and do it, but you got to do it 100%.
Yep.
AJ?
Yeah, we are 100% background checks and continuous background checks too. Same thing with the MVR reports. Every 6 months, all our drivers and helpers go through another background check. They're considered. We are going into homes with people in private rooms and private areas of these folks' home. We need to ensure that all of our drivers and helpers that are going into that home, we can confidently say that we've done everything we can to ensure that that individual is cleared to go in that home from a legal, whether it's drug tests, background tests, MVRs, being out on the road. So it is absolutely the most important thing that we do is ensure that our delivery teams are cleared to be in customers' homes.
Yep.
Yeah, Brian?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you want to know who you're hiring, right? You want to know who they are. Doesn't mean that they won't get the job. It kind of puts into your mind who you're dealing with, and who they are. Depending on what's on that background check is what makes that determination. Depending on that drug test, makes that determination. I mean, nowadays, you go into homes and all you smell is marijuana. So it's like, that person is definitely not worried about a drug test, but it is important for the safety factor, right? Let's think about that. Let's think about that. Like AJ said, they're going into all these homes, these private spaces, all of a sudden something's missing,
Yep. Yep.
It's very,
I think about this from years ago when in retail that I was involved in where they utilized polygraphs. And you know what? It wasn't the taking of the polygraph, it was just the mere thought of it that caused people to self-identify or to back out. So sometimes these background check requirements are things that are gonna really kind of weed people out, even just by the fact that you have it. So just a really thought there. Guys, this has been I think if anything we've learned today is we need to have another hour at some point, because this has been huge and it's an area that we don't often think about, but gosh, it's so important. But tremendous takeaways today. I want to thank this outstanding panel. Brian Lysett with Service Technologies. Brian, it's always great to have you. Thank you for those insights. John Greenberg from City Furniture. You just seem fun and so enthusiastic that I can understand why you're leading that culture there. I get it 100%, especially knowing a lot of the people you work with and for. Man, you're a good cultural fit there. Unbelievable. Thank you for being there. I appreciate it. And awesome. Also AJ Hineker with Fidelitone. We thank you as well, man. Really, really appreciate it. And you did get some good stuff in there without having to say another answer was good. You did. Yeah, I got you. I got you in there. Listen,
Thanks, Mark.
we thank you so much once again, myhfa.org/webinar. This will be found there and be part of our library, but we always wish you two things whenever we end one of these webinars. One is the best of health, and of course, good sales too. On behalf of all of us here at HFA, I'm Mark Schumacher. Thanks. We will see you next time.